So, if you're studying for the ACCA exams, you already know they're one of the toughest professional hurdles out there. But what if I told you the key to passing wasn't just about studying harder? Today, we're diving into a proven system for success, a strategy literally born from years of failure that could completely change the game for you. 12 attempts. Just let that number sink in for a second. This isn't some abstract theory. This is a story that starts with years and years of struggle. The author, who wasn't a native English speaker and was holding down a full-time job, failed over and over again. And that painful reality, well, it's something a lot of candidates know all too well. You know that feeling, right? Hitting a wall, getting stuck in that cycle of studying and then feeling that disappointment. The stress just mounts, the self-doubt creeps in. It's a really common experience. So if you've ever felt stuck or just totally discouraged on this journey, I promise you, you are absolutely not alone. The struggle actually got so intense that the author just gave up on the ACCA qualification entirely, just walked away. But years later, trying to build a career in Europe, a painful reality check hit them. Every single interview had the same question. So, have you completed your ACCA? It was a wake-up call they just couldn't ignore anymore. So what changed? When they decided to go back to the ACC path, it wasn't about pulling more all-nighters or reading the textbook one more time. The real breakthrough came from a pretty radical shift. They completely dismantled their old study habits and built a new learning strategy from the ground up. And it was based on a totally different philosophy. And that philosophy, well, that's the heart of this entire system. It's all about a fundamental shift in your identity, moving away from the university student you used to be and stepping into the high-level professional you need to become to pass these exams. It really is a tale of two mindsets. On one side, you've got the student mindset, which is all about memorizing theory, just like you did in school. But on the other side, you have the professional mindset, which is about application, judgment, and communication. You know, examiners say it all the time, candidates write as if they're in a classroom, not a boardroom. And that right there, that's the exact gap we need to close. This quote just nails it. It perfectly captures the new identity you have to adopt. You're no longer just a candidate answering a question. You are a strategist solving a real business problem. You're a consultant delivering a professional report. You are a future CFO making critical judgments. Every single answer you write has to reflect that shift. Okay, so how do you actually do that? It all starts with the first pillar of this system. You have to learn to think like an examiner. You've got to understand the game you're playing. Because this exam isn't just testing what you know, it's testing a very specific and very different set of professional skills. So let's talk about professional marks. Seriously, these aren't just some bonus points you get for neat handwriting. They are a direct test of your ability to act and communicate like a professional. It's all about how you structure your answer, the format you use, and the clarity and tone of your writing. And here's why this is so critical. There are up to 20 professional marks up for grabs. For anyone who's ever hovered around that pass-fail borderline, you know, that dreaded 49, these marks are often the entire difference between failing and succeeding. They are arguably the easiest marks to earn on the paper, yet they're also the most commonly ignored. And you've got to look closely at how the examiner is literally giving you hidden instructions. These command verbs, they aren't just suggestions, they are the marking key. If it says identify, they just want a list. But if it says evaluate, they are demanding your professional judgment backed up by solid evidence. Using the wrong approach for the verb means you're just leaving crucial marks on the table. And these are the classic mistakes that all come from that student mindset. Answers that are just a giant wall of text, generic points that have nothing to do with the actual case study, and writing to an examiner instead of the CEO you're supposed to be advising. Each one of these is a failure to think and act like a professional. Okay, so once you've got that professional mindset locked in, you need the right process. That brings us to our second pillar, building a practical, repeatable study system. This is where all that strategy turns into real action. The system lays out a super clear 12-week countdown. The first month is all about building your knowledge foundation. The second month is where you get into applied practice. You stop just reading and start writing. And that final month, it's all about full mock exams, polishing your technique, and nailing your timing. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and this gives you a clear pacer. And for the writing itself, the system gives you this powerful tool called the CAJR model. It's described as the golden formula for structuring an answer. And it makes sure you're presenting a logical, persuasive argument instead of just, dumping information on the page.
So here's how it works in practice. You start with C for context. Easy enough. Then you do your A for analysis, making sure you link it directly to the details in the case. Next, and this is the big one, you make a J for judgment. You have to take a clear stance. And finally, you provide a practical, actionable R for recommendation. This structure forces you to think and write like a real consultant.
So let's bring this all together. The journey from repeated failure to finally passing wasn't some kind of magic trick. It was simply about abandoning an old, ineffective approach and adopting a new, strategic one. If you remember just one thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this. The strategic professional exams are not a test of your memory. They are a test of your strategy. Your success depends not on how much you can remember, but on how well you can apply that knowledge under pressure, with the mindset of a true professional. And we're going to end right where we began, with a message of hope that's grounded in a tough reality. This system was forged in failure, and that's exactly what proves that your past performance does not have to define your future potential. With the right strategy and the right mindset, this challenge is absolutely 100% within your reach.